when you will be documenting your models, your sources, there could be columns which could be appearing multiple times, like in each of these models or sources, they could be referenced multiple times. So this is the problem that you'll hit pretty quickly, that you will have to just copy paste the same descriptions everywhere and be consistent. And if you make changes later on down the line to model descriptions or to any of the things that you have mentioned for those columns, you'll have to go through each of those models and update the descriptions over there. Now, it could be possible that there might be some time where you're updating the stuff in one place and not in the other place because you forgot about it, or it's not you, it's somebody else who is doing it and is not aware that the same column has been described in multiple different places, and they miss out one or many of those places. So this is where the DBT blocks, the doc blocks come into picture. They are specifically used to solve this problem of repeatability of code. So they're going to let you write the descriptions in the .md file. So you're going to create a .md file, and in here you're going to write descriptions for those columns, for those models, or anything that you want to write, which is going to be repeated multiple times, so that you just write it once over here, and then you're just going to reference the block in multiple places. Like you can reference it in multiple models, in sources, etc. if you're writing about columns, let us say. So in order to avoid the repetition, we're just going to use these doc blocks. Now, as always, we know that we have to create this .md file, but where is it going to be created? So we're going to create that in the models directory. So for me, I'm just going to create a separate folder, and I'm going to call this docs. And in here, I'm just going to add a new file. So let us say I'm just calling this column description.md. So this has to be a markdown file. So that's why I have written MD over here. Now the way to write this is, you're first going to use Jinja functions. So in curly braces, I'm going to add a %sign. So this is how you start, and you just write docs. This is the keyword, like you write tests or macro. Similarly, you write docs, and then you have to give a name to this doc. So suppose I'm doing this for employee ID, just to show you. So I'm just going to say employee ID. This has to be a unique name. It doesn't necessarily have to be the column name, but it makes sense to put this as a column name, so you know this is about employee ID. And the way to end it is, again, in curly braces, you write %%, and then you just write end docs. And in between, you write whatever description you want to write. You can add a table, like you can make it as a table, you can make it as a bullet pointed list, you can do a lot of things, and it is all allowed in the markdown file. So for me, I'm just going to write, this is the unique identifier for an employee. This could be a very descriptive text, which is what it should be, but I just want to show you the concept, so I'm just writing this much, and I'm going to save this. Suppose if you have to write another thing, you just add another docs block, change the description, and use it like that. Let's say you had to define in bronze, we have got business travel. So I'm just going to add business travel over here, and I'm going to copy this description, and I'm going to paste it over here. Now this is, we have just defined the docs, we have not referenced them. So the way to reference this is, you go into the bronze models.yml, because I have defined this business travel. So here I'm going to remove this, and in curly braces and in the quotes, I'm just going to write doc and provide the name. So for me, this one is business travel. So that's what we are referencing over here. Similarly, if it is about employee ID, so let's go to this employee number. So for this employee number, I'm just going to say in double quotes, curly braces, and then I'm just going to write doc, and then employee ID and save it. So you can write it in multiple places. So I'm just going to copy this, and I have that in, yeah, we have employee number over here. So I'm just going to add that over here. So that description is going to be automatically added in all these three places. So if I have to make change in that description, all I have to do is go into this markdown file and update the description over here, and it's going to be reflected in all of the other places where we have referenced it. So we're just writing it once, using it multiple times. Now in these markdown files, like I said, you can have tables, you can have lists, bold, links, code blocks. You can present it beautifully. It renders beautifully. I'll show you the UI just after this. So it renders beautifully. So you can make the documentation as beautiful as you like. Now I've added one change. I have added, this is from docs block to my descriptions from the .md file, so that when we render it, we know that this is coming from docs block. So I just wanted to show you that it's coming from docs block, that's why. And because I've made this change, I have to run the file again, like the dbt project again. So I did dbt build so that this documentation comes into picture and we have the full thing ready. And now once I did dbt build, now I'm going to do dbt docs generate. Now what this command will do is, it is going to create two files for us in the target folder. The first one would be the manifest.json and the other one would be catalog.json. Now these are the files which are going to keep information about our dbt project. In order to serve this to our stakeholders, we're going to spin up a local website, and this time we're just doing this in our local host, but you can host it somewhere like in your S3 and share the link with the stakeholders, and they can view the documentation from there. So let me just first run this dbt docs generate, and I can just show you the files that get created. So we're going to go into the targets folder, and in here you can see manifest.json, and then there will be another one called catalog.json. So you see it's building catalog for now. So here you see catalog.json. There are some warnings, but we can ignore them. So this is how the file looks like, and we can view this JSON file. So let's go over here, and I'm going to open this in web browser. Oops, I have this extra over here. So you can see it has generated this documentation in JSON format for us. And to serve this to our stakeholders, we're going to run the command dbt docs serve. And now this is going to spin up that website that I was talking about. So it's going to render the way we have written things. So if you have added documentation where you have table, then it's going to show the tables, and it's going to do all those beautiful things. So as you can see, this is running in my local host on 8080 port. So going into models and bronze HR data, you can see that it says this is from docs block. So you can see that it is being pulled up from there. And similarly for our gold also, in gold employee features, I believe we have written it. Yes. So employee features in employee number, you can see this is coming from docs block. So whenever you have to update this employee ID description, you will just need to go to this docs block, like this .md file, update it over here, and it's going to be reflected in the different places that you have referenced this to. So this is how easy documentation is if you have anything which is repeating, to keep the code dry, which is do not repeat yourself. So just now we have run two commands, dbt docs generate and the other one is dbt docs serve. So I want to explain more about what these things are doing under the hood, because they are doing very separate things, and I just wanted to make you understand when you run these commands what happens, because this will help you in debugging when your site is not building, then why it is not building, or when the site is showing stale data, then why there could be a stale data. So it's going to give you some ideas on how to debug those issues. So that's why I thought I'll explain these commands in detail. So the first one that we are going to talk about is the dbt docs generate command. Now under the hood, this is doing three things specifically. First is it is going to compile the code. So whatever you have written in terms of models, your tests, macros, etc., this all will get compiled, and the output of this compilation is actually a file which is called as manifest.json file. So whenever the code is compiled, a manifest.json file is created. Now it is not just this dbt docs command, generate command, which is going to create this manifest.json file, because like I was saying, whenever you compile, this file gets created. So compilation happens every time you run dbt run, dbt build, etc., like those commands. So that's why if you see a manifest.json already created for you in the target folder, then there is a compilation that has happened, and because of that this manifest.json is present. So even with dbt docs generate command, compilation happens, and that's how you get the manifest.json file. If you already have manifest.json, you can skip building this file. I'll show you the flags that we can use to stop building this. So this is the first thing that happens when you run dbt docs generate command. The second thing is it's going to create another file which is called as catalog.json. I'll explain in detail about this manifest.json file and catalog.json file, like what do they do, what do they contain, etc., in a separate video, because here I just want to discuss these two commands, which is dbt docs generate and dbt docs serve. But just remember that these two are the files that get created when you run dbt docs generate. Now manifest.json was the output of the compilation code. So what happens in catalog.json? So in dbt is going to reach out to your actual data warehouse, and it is going to pull information about the tables that they exist there, the views that exist there, etc. So it's going to capture the real column types, their table statistics, etc., and it is going to write that information into this catalog.json file. So your compiled code will be in manifest.json, but the data warehouse specific details will be contained in the catalog.json. And because we are generating the documentation, so obviously these two things should merge and give us the overall picture of in which table what exists, etc. So this is exactly what this dbt docs generate command is doing. The last thing that it does is it will create an index.html file. Now with this file, this is just a static file in which the details get filled from this compiled code, which is manifest.json and catalog.json. So it brings all of this into the targets folder. So you'll find all of these files in the targets folder. Now let us move to the dbt project to show you practically how these three files they get generated. We can see visually how these things are happening. So moving to the dbt project area, first let us visit this target folder, and currently it just has this manifest.json file. Why? Because previously I have run dbt build, dbt run, etc., those commands. So there was already a compiled version of the code which was available in this manifest.json. Now we don't see index.html over here, and we don't see catalog.json over here. These will get added as soon as I run the dbt docs generate command. Now there is already a manifest.json present right now, but because I'm running this dbt docs generate command, that JSON file will get refreshed. My code will get recompiled and a fresh manifest.json will get generated. I'll show you in the next round when we are running this dbt docs generate command how not to do that. But let's first run this command. And keep an eye in this targets folder. You will see index.html coming and you will see catalog.json coming. So here you can see index.html, which was not there previously. It is still building the catalog. So let's just wait for that. And you can see that it has written catalog.json as well. So like I said, these three files, they get generated. Now let me just delete manifest.json, delete this catalog.json, and also delete this index.html. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to again run this dbt docs generate command, but with a flag which is called as no compile. Now when I run this, you will see that I'll have index.html, I'll have catalog.json, but I will not have manifest.json file, because we are saying here no compile, do not compile when you run this command. So let's do this. You saw this index.html coming. It is still building the catalog, so it's going to run and create catalog.json. It has done that over here, but you see there is no manifest.json file being created because we told dbt specifically that we do not want this. Now you will think that why would we not want a manifest.json file? If you do not want to compile your code again when you're generating these docs, then you can use the already present manifest.json, which is from the previous compiled version. So that would be a very good case when you don't want this manifest.json file. But let me now run this again without the no compile flag, and this time it is going to generate the manifest.json as well. We need all three files so that the documentation is generated properly. So now you see that we have got this manifest.json as well, and it's building catalog and everything. So this was the first command. Now there is also a flag via which we can ignore creating this catalog, like the catalog.json will be present. Like over here you can see I have got details here about catalog.json, but if I don't want this, if I don't want dbt to go to the warehouse, query it, get the details, we can generate an empty catalog.json file just for local development. So the flag for that would be just --empty catalog. So let me just delete this. Earlier I showed you we had the data over here. I'm deleting this, and now I'm again running dbt docs generate --empty catalog. Now this is going to skip the data warehouse query entirely, and it's going to produce a catalog.json with empty nodes and sources. And you can see that nodes, sources, everything, they are empty. Earlier they were filled out. So these were the two important flags that you can use. This one is just for local development if you want to test out things. But let me just run this. So one important thing to remember is the manifest.json. It's not exclusive to this particular command. When you run, dbt compile, dbt build, all of them, they refresh this manifest.json too, since all of them, they are combining it. So it's just not specific to this, but catalog.json and index.json, they are specific to dbt docs generate. Now let us move to dbt docs serve command. Once you have generated these files, so what dbt docs will do is it's going to actually show you the website. So it's going to spin up a server where you can load this index.html to view the documentation. So the output for this one is basically a local server URL. A URL will get generated on port 8080 or whatever port you choose, which I showed you earlier. So what it is doing is it's rendering this index.html page on this port so that you can see the visuals and everything. And this is a static website. So when it will load, the JavaScript that's present in this index.html, it's going to read this manifest.json and catalog.json file, which is sitting in the targets folder, and it's going to show you all those details on the web browser. Now this dbt docs serve is just for local development. We can host these websites on S3 or on other similar platforms. I'll show you how these things are done in the upcoming videos. So essentially this dbt docs command, it's not going to generate anything or process anything new. It's just going to host these existing files locally, and it's going to let your browser merge these manifest.json, catalog.json files so that you can see it as a proper website, which is on the back of index.html. So to show you how this is run, so let's do dbt docs serve. We have got our catalog.json, index.html and manifest.json. So we can just run this, and it's going to spin up a local host for us, and we can just open that URL in the web browser. So we have opened this, and you can see the documentation over here. Please let me know if you want me to create a video where I can show you how to host this on S3 or any other place, like not just open this on localhost but somewhere else, and I will create a video for that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If there are any other suggestions or comments or questions, please put those also in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next one.